Hi everyone, and welcome to this new speed build in The Sims 4. Today I'm building a house in Conifer Station, the neighborhood with a neutral eco-footprint of the new world added with The Sims 4 eco-lifestyle Evergreen Harbor, and I tried to make this house look quite similar to the houses that you can see all around this neighborhood. And I built this house with a family of two Sims in mind, an elderly Sim, Morgan, who would be very much into making items, and who would have had a good life. Not an easy one though, because he would have lost a lot throughout the years, and that would have made him quite sarcastic and not very enthusiastic about the future, and he wouldn't really think too much of recycling or making a difference, for example. And I see him as very down to earth, even a little bit too pessimistic at times. His granddaughter though, Abigail, on the other hand, who would be the other Sim he would be living with, would be very much into recycling, improving the world and the environment, and she would try to convince her grandfather to think a bit more about making a difference. And she would also be very much into the neighborhood action plan, the naps, and convincing others to improve their way of life. The story I was thinking for these two was that a couple years back, Morgan's wife, so Abigail's grandmother, passed away from old age, and the reason why Abigail is living with her grandfather is because her mom passed away when she was really young. And her dad, who was in the military, disappeared when he was on a mission in Strangerville. And I don't think she has any memory of her parents anyway, so Abigail basically grew up with her grandparents in Evergreen Harbor, and after her grandmother passed away, rather than leaving for university as she had planned, Abigail decided to stay with her grandfather. Morgan, on his side, he used to work for the train station that closed down years ago, and he managed to make ends meet through selling what he crafted since then, especially his juice fizzing nectar, for the past 10 or 15 years or so. And he actually would enjoy teaching Abigail a thing or two about crafting things, and juice fizzing especially, but she's as stubborn as he is, and she won't listen until he listens to her. But no matter what, I really imagine these two loving each other deeply and making an effort for one another eventually. Now, I don't know if I will do a let's play on this pack, at least within the next few days, because I currently have a lot to do on the channel, and I'm also working on a couple other projects for the channel, but also for my life in general, and that takes already quite some time, so it will depend on how I organize my time, if I manage to organize my time well enough to add another series onto the channel or not. But I'd like to explore this pack a bit more in depth for sure. So in this house you will find two bedrooms, although one is technically the attic, and I did place a ladder to access that room because that's how I think you can access most attics in real life. And there is also only one bathroom, although I think that's enough for only two Sims living in this house. Also, I only used the base game and eco-lifestyle for this house, and I think that in the end the house was worth around 47,000 simoleons or so it's not even a very expensive house, even though I've placed the juice fizzing machine, the candle making station, a woodworking table, and a bunch of other skill building and crafting items all throughout the house. Also, I had a weird glitch with the terrain paint on this build, and on other builds that I did before the last update, because the terrain paint either changes to the base game dirt paint or simply disappears. And I hope that's just a glitch from the game that can be solved through another patch, because that's quite annoying. Actually, since the last update of the game for the eco-lifestyle expansion pack, I've experienced many weird problems with the game. First of all, of course, the weird problem with the saves that weren't working anymore. Thankfully though, none of my Let's Play saves had any issues, and I was really glad with how quickly they reacted to that problem. Then I saw that glitch with the terrain paint that people said they had encountered a few months back, and that was supposed to be solved through an older patch, but apparently it is back. And then I had a weird problem with my default eyes, and for a couple of days I thought I was the only one having this issue. But then more and more people started complaining that their default replacement eyes had been broken by the latest patch, and thankfully someone made a fix for them, and I tweeted it, but if you have had that problem as well, I will leave a link to that fix in the description. It's very simple to use and it solved the problem very quickly. But I think this patch, at least for me, was one of the glitchiest. I'm usually quite lucky and I don't experience many problems after an update, but this time I have had a few. Although it's not too bad considering all the new content we had, like being able to freely place doors and windows, which still doesn't seem real to say. And that was a real game changer, and to be honest, when the patch released, I sat down for a few minutes just moving windows and doors around while holding Alt, for example, on an empty wall, just for the fun of it and the beauty of it. Going back to the build though, I am now working on the living, dining, and kitchen area, and this entire room had a very cozy feel to it, I think. I went with beige and blue tones, and it's not heavily decorated, as I usually do, but this time, I really didn't feel that the room needed more to look nice and lived in. I actually really like the new items we got with this pack. They definitely look realistic, I think. Now, I will come back to the kitchen eventually because I completely forgot to decorate it when I first worked on it. I just moved on to something different rather than finishing the kitchen first, which is actually something that I do quite often when I build. I've been doing pretty well on my last couple builds and managed to focus on one room at a time, but I guess the excitement of the new content and new things to build with just got to me, and I just had to go all over the place when building again. I'm also really happy to have finally managed to place the table with the tablecloth on it because it's been a while that I wanted to use it inside a house, but because of the metallic legs of the table, I guess I can call them that way, I felt like this table was better outside than inside the house until now, and to me that gives this home a realistic feel to it. I did play and test this house as well, even though I didn't use that much the move objects cheat. I wanted to make sure that everything was working fine. The only item that could have been glitchy would have been the sink because I really wanted it to be just in front of a window, but because of the way I had freely placed the windows, it made it difficult to do so, although I managed to do it eventually. I know that this room looks a little bit empty, but for some reason, I don't mind it too much. I actually kinda like it. I've seen a couple other builds where the builder used the new pack and the new items from the new pack, and something that comes up often is minimalistic, and that's definitely a feel that I get from the items we got with this pack. I'm not saying that this house is minimalistic at all, it's actually quite far from it, but I think there might be some kind of influence from that movement. Also, I used a couple items from the debug menu that came with this pack because I really wanted to leave the opportunity for whoever wanted to denote this house to work for the items that you can craft with the new fabrication skill. I know that I'd like to work for those. As for the floor plan, it's very basic and highly influenced by the house that you can find here when you start a new save. I think it's a nice layout and it actually made my life easier. I don't know if Morgan and Abigail have been living in this house for very long. I think they might have moved not long after Abigail's grandmother passed away. Maybe they were living in the Quarry neighborhood before. I can't remember the name of it right now, but maybe that's where they were. Maybe that's where they come from. I also tried not to make my life too difficult when choosing the flooring and the wallpaper, which is usually something that happened and that I tend to struggle with, so I went really simple. Now is also a time when I go kind of all over the place because I was pretty much discovering the items and I wanted to use as many as possible, but I didn't really know where to put them and I didn't want to forget about them, so I just keep going back and forth from the different rooms, but eventually I will start working on the garden. And so in the garden you will find the usual eating and grilling area. I will place the juice fizzing machine just under the porch thing that I have no idea how it's called, and I will place a bug box and everything needed to have a garden because I was thinking that Morgan wouldn't like to buy his produce he uses to make his juice from anyone. I think actually that he would have the friggin' trait, so he would rather grow everything in his garden himself. Maybe that's also something that Abigail would get into eventually. And I also placed a dew collector that I thought Abigail would have crafted herself. Now, I know I said that I don't think I would do a Let's Play right away, but I think that if I do a Let's Play on Eco Lifestyle, it would be with Morgan and Abigail in this house. And I had that in mind as I was building this house, which is why I didn't place too many items that could change the eco footprint too quickly and too drastically. Just in case I would ever have them move in this house and play in here, I wanted to do that through the gameplay, but you can definitely put solar panels on the roof, in the garden, or even a wind turbine somewhere. That would be something that I'd like to add as we go along in this series if that ever happens, or maybe in a tiny house or a house off the grid from the get-go. I also thought for a while that the garden was too small and that I couldn't do too much with it, but in the end I managed to fit quite a few things in here. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put a lot of plants as well, but I just went ahead and thought that maybe Morgan was a little bit too lazy to take care of the garden and Abigail would be a little too busy, so I put outgrown plants, flowers, and grass in the corners. But there isn't a whole lot of landscaping done in this house, and I don't think it would have looked too good with this style I was going for anyway. I also went ahead and went into the debug menu to place some square tiles to go from the eating area to the juice fizzing machine. I think those tiles come from the base game, and I had been thinking about using those tiles for a while but never had the occasion to do so, so I thought that now was a good time for that and I love the result. I'm definitely going to do that again. Maybe that was actually a part that Morgan or maybe Abigail or maybe even the two of them together renovated when they first moved in this house. Then I moved on to what I thought would be Morgan's bedroom, and I used the bed that is not the bed you can craft through the fabrication skill, but I still thought that this bed had been Morgan's bed for years and he had renovated it a few times with the frame and the covers combined, you know? Although I really thought we had more bookshelves and dressers with this pack. I do know we can find more in the debug menu, but once again, I didn't want to use too many items that can be crafted through the gameplay. This bedroom is quite empty, I know, but as usual, I didn't really know what kind of decoration to use in this bedroom, and even though Morgan is a crafter, I didn't really see him being too materialistic and caring too much about how pretty or good a decoration can be. I think he values more what the object is for than how it looks, if that makes any sense. Now I'm going back to the kitchen because I finally realized that I had completely forgot to put any decoration on the counters. And at that moment, I knew that the video would be all over the place, but I was really having fun building this house, and I was thinking about Morgan and Abigail's story, so I really didn't realize how much time I had spent on this house. And I actually didn't spend that long on it, only a couple of hours, I think, which hasn't been the usual time for me lately, because recently a house takes me around 4 to 6 hours to build, and I have to cut the building process in half, or even sometimes in 3 to 4 parts to avoid feeling bored with the build, or burnt out in a way, and just, go live a life pretty much outside of The Sims. But I built that house in one sitting, and I really didn't see the time go by, and that was really, really enjoyable. Now I'm moving on to the bathrooms, and I really like the new shelf we got with this pack. It takes a lot of room, but once again, I thought that Morgan had crafted it years ago, and it has followed him ever since to stock bed sheets, towels, and other bathroom and laundry items. I didn't use any new plumbings from the new pack though, because I thought that they looked a little bit too modern for the style I was going for. So this bathroom is really simple, but I feel like most rooms in this house are anyway. I don't know why, but I really like that airy style that this house has. I did place the basic decorations though, like the toilet paper next to the toilets, the medicine cabinets, the towels next to the sink, and of course a rug on the ground. I thought about using the rug you can craft through the fabrication skill, because that rug really makes me think of those anti-sleeping rug you usually put in the bathtub. I have no idea how these are called, I'm really sorry about that. But I think it could have looked pretty cool in here. But that's once again something that I'd like to craft if one of the first things that I'd like to craft if I ever play with Morgan and Abigail in this house. Then I finally moved on to the attic, which is also going to be Abigail's bedroom, or at least that was what I had in mind when I furnished this room. And here I did use the crafted bed because I didn't want to use any of the base game beds, but I think that's the only crafted item from Eco Lifestyle that I've used in this build. So Abigail has a candle crafting station in her bedroom because I think that's something she really enjoys doing and that she probably does when she feels stressed, annoyed, or even sad. She also has a desk area with a laptop on it because I was thinking that if I ever play with this family that she would go into the civil designer career, and I'm pretty sure she'll need a computer eventually, and in any case, I would like to put Morgan in the freelancer crafter career if I ever play with these guys, and for that career you need a computer anyway, so that computer will come in handy eventually. I also really like the color theme I went for in her bedroom because it really seems warm, happy, and hopeful, which describes pretty much how I imagine Abigail to be. I did try to decorate her bedroom a little bit more because I think she aged up into a young adult not that long ago, so she still has some of what she had when she was a teen. But I think that's pretty much all I had to say about this house. I'm really happy with the result, and I really hope that you guys like it as well. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you'd like to add this house in your own game, you will find all of the information on how to find it on the gallery in the description with a link to the online gallery as well. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will talk to you in the next one.